Hey, y'all, hey. I want to have a conversation with my women who smoke cigars or my women who maybe enjoy going to a cigar lounge with their husbands or significant others but don't smoke and maybe are thinking about it. I want to talk about how I started smoking cigars and how this became a part of who I am, right? I started off by going to a cigar lounge with my son. And at first, I didn't smoke. I just sat there and I hung out with him for a little while. It was a time for us to just chat without distractions of social media and those types of things. But after going a few times, I thought maybe I should try it. So I asked the owner of the place, Tom, what would you recommend? And he recommended something called Tatiana Vanilla. And it is a very mellow, light cigar. That was my entryway into cigar smoking. And I stuck with Tatiana for a good year. They have a lot of different flavors. They have cherry, they have a groovy blue, which is a very fruity flavor. They are a good entry point for people who have never smoked before. They are not my favorite cigar, but if you've never smoked before, it might be a good place to start. Why I enjoy a cigar lounge so much is because the one thing about a cigar lounge is it is about the moment. It is a place that when I go, it forces me to slow down, to be in the moment. And I needed that. Like, my mind is always racing, and I'm always thinking about what to do next. I don't rest the way that I should. I'm getting better at it. But going to the lounge forced me to be in the moment. And that is a common thread through every single cigar lounge that I've been to. And they all have different vibes. Like, some of them are very much more mellow, sit back, leather chairs. Others are sports, kind of sports bar filtered type of places. But they are always about the moment. I don't think women smoking cigars is a new thing. I do think that it's starting to have more visibility. There are some times when I'm in the lounge and I'm the only woman in there. I like to see that change. And then there's some times where I'm not. There are a bunch of other women in there. The appeal of cigar lounges to me is rooted in slowing down, is rooted in intention. It's rooted in familiarity. The place that I frequent the most, when I go in, they know my name. It's like the Cheers. I'm dating myself now. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. They know my name. They know my go-to sticks. They know my drink of choice. And it just feels so comfortable, right? It just feels like a place to go, a third space that you can go and hang out with friends. Now, for ladies who are maybe thinking about smoking for the first time, I am going to just make some recommendations as entry points for you because, like I said, that the Tatianas are not my favorite. There are cigars that are just better rolled and more flavorful. I would start with something called a Baby Jane, and it's by Deadwood Tobacco, or a Sweet Jane is the bigger version of it. I'm a Deadwood Tobacco's girly. Every single flavor, every single stick that I have tried from Deadwood Tobacco's, I like. The Sweet Jane, and I'm going to look at my notes so that I give you the right flavor blend, is a mellow body and it has flavors of dark chocolate, cocoa, mocha, cream. And it is a very enjoyable smoke. One of my favorites is the Girl with No Name. And it's a little bit bolder than a Sweet Jane, but it is also cocoa, creamy vanilla. And it has like dried fruits. It's a richer taste to it. The Girl with No Name comes in a Connecticut wrap. The Sweet Jane comes in a Maduro wrapper. And then the Baby Jane is the same as a Sweet Jane, but it's a smaller size. This is not a Sweet Jane. This is a tobacco, and a tobacco is also very sweet. It has a creamy, sugary taste to it, and it comes in this wrapper, which is a dark wrapper, and that's called a Maduro wrapper. Let me pull out something to show you the wrapper. When it's a light wrapper, is called a Connecticut wrapper. The Maduro wrappers just are a little bit richer than the Connecticut wrappers. And then the only other wrapper that I know about is this one, and it's called like a Candela, and it's a slightly greenish wrapper, the Candela leaf. But, and this is a acid Candela, which is also a Deadwood Tobaccos and a very good starting place to smoke if you want to smoke. The little ones, a lot of places don't sell the little ones, but they're a good place to start because it's not a big cigar. It is, a 7 to 10 minute smoke, whereas the bigger one that I showed you is just definitely going to be a longer smoke. Most cigars make their flavor in small ones, then long ones, and also then like big fat ones. I tend to not like necessarily big fat cigars, with the exception of Dominica, which is also one of my go-to Deadwood tobacco. I promise you, I'm not sponsored by Deadwood Tobacco, but it is one of my favorite. Dominica is also one of my favorites. I think like when I go into the place that I go to the most, it's called Light 'em Up in Columbia. When I walk in, they know. They're like, what you having today? No Name, Dominica, Crazy Alice, all Deadwood Tobaccos, and the Sweet Janes. So I rotate between those as my favorite. There are some that I like that are bolder, not as sweet, and I can get into some of those a little bit later, but that's just an entry point and a little bit on why I started smoking, because I needed to slow down. And now, even when I get like super stressed out, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to the lounge and slow down and not be on my cell phone constantly. Talk to strangers who became friends. The place that I go to is very sports coded, and I am not a sports girly. I'm more basketball than I am football, so I can get into little basketball conversations, especially when we're talking about the Lady Gamecocks. But I know enough about like what team is playing. Usually can tell by the color of their uniforms. I'm just not that into it, but it doesn't matter. I have always felt welcome in every lounge that I've been to, and I've been to lounges in multiple cities now because I always find one when I go to a conference, and I always feel welcome. It's that type of place. The vibe is always very welcoming. So if you're thinking about it, just try it. Try it, and try it with either a Tatiana if you want to, but I suggest a Sweet Jane or a Baby Jane as your first stick.